Hey friends. Well, it's my last day in Providence. You can tell I'm really on vacation when I wear this hat. This hat seems to only land on top of my head when I'm really off the grid. So here I am. It's been super fun. I've had a really lovely time, and it's been an interesting. There's been a kind of a recognition or a revisiting of something that I'm aware of, and that I'm kind of always aware of in my life, and especially in my parenting, and even in my relationship with Katie. There's it's like a principle that, like for example with Annalise, like whatever I feel as the parent, she's going to receive as the reality of the situation. So like with this trip, I had a fair amount of apprehension about not so much me leaving, but it was because both of us were leaving and we're going so far away, and it was for a longer amount of time than we ever have before. It's basically 4 full days. And we were a long ways away. It's not like we could just, quickly get back if we needed to. So I had a bit of worry about that. I had a bit of just concern. But of course, the principle of that kind of resonance with the child, and that resonance is ultimately what communicates the message. It's not so much that 4 days with her grandmother was going to be hard for her. It was, what are we telling? What am I not just telling her in words, but what am I signaling through my inner state of tension? If in other words, if I leave in a state of tension, and if my departure and my interaction with her leading up to it and after it on FaceTime or whatever, if there's a tension in me, she's gonna pick up on that and then resonate with that, because I'm teaching her that that's reality. And so this time has been a real practice of that, of just continuously settling myself. It's like, what would I want her to receive, and can I give that to myself? Because on some level, where is that tension in me coming from? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid that I'm going to communicate that she's not loved? Am I afraid that I'm going to communicate that I'm not, or we're not there for her when she needs us? What's the thing? If I can get myself hooked, in other words, if I can feel the thing that tugs at me and that gives me that sense of of the pain, or of the thing that I would be afraid of, or that somehow zings in my heart, then I can maybe identify what it is that's causing my apprehension about this circumstance for her. And the fact is, what has become so evident is that my own healing of that in me is the process of healing it in her. Or it makes it irrelevant to heal it in her, because she just never deals with the issue. She just never has to suffer that particular quandary, that particular problem, because I'm not transmitting it. I'm not bringing it into her life. I'm not bringing it into the relationship. And so it's been a great practice, and I feel like I've done it relatively successfully. Annalise has seemed just over the moon every time we've spoken to her. She hasn't talked about missing us. If anything, she's too busy, going to the farmer's market and being in the swimming pool and hanging out with Bubby to really care too much. She has not demanded long calls. It's kind of been like, oh, hi, okay, bye. Which is great. That's the right, it makes it feel like she's in a great place. But that practice, it's that practice with her, and then somewhat with Katie as well, because what is this trip? This trip is a time for us to really have time that we don't really get anymore, and or not that we don't get anymore, but we get it infrequently. We don't get a lot of time where we get to go and be on our own and travel, and so letting that in and letting that be, because it's something that, of course, in our daily life, it feels amazing to have that opportunity. But there's a part of me, I can see there's a part of me that sort of clamps down on it, because but what about Annalise? And it's just something that, again, I've tried to clock and to say, okay, but what's the deepest, highest, best possible version of life that contains, of my relationship to this thing in life? What would the ideal be? And then let myself embrace that. Let myself really live there, and kind of consciously hold everything else, and not try, not be doing it in a selfish way or in a way that excludes other things, but also not in a way that is self-denying or somehow limiting the joy that we're allowed to have. So anyway, it's been a really great time, and I think I'm always inspired when this particular practice kind of gets rekindled, and I get reminded of the fact that my inner state, my inner state of being is what's determining not just my reality, but also the reality of the people that are close to me. I'm part of that. I'm one building block in their reality, and I'm part of creating, especially in the case of a child, a growing sense of how the world works, how this works, and I think it's the level of subtlety on which that's happening. The level of deep kind of psychic resonance, that it's just so easy to get sucked into the surface of life and forget that really 90% of the work is happening on that level. So that's just been I think of this even in the context of my piano practice. It was hard for me to leave the piano for 4 days, because I've been really consistent now for months. I've been really consistently practicing, and I haven't hardly, even when I've had days when I couldn't do a lot, I've made a point to do just a little to kind of keep the flow going. So this is 4 days away, and it was like, well, there's probably just no way I'm going to get to a piano for 4 days. And I was like, but am I going to let that inner state of tension determine how I operate, determine what's possible for me? Because it was clearly a state of tension. It was clearly a way that I was going to be hedging on the side of security rather than the side of expansiveness. And if I'm inwardly hedging on the side of security, I'm actually denying security. I'm actually denying myself a deeper level of security. I might be because it's grabbing hold of something and acting as though I need this to be secure, as opposed to letting go and knowing that I have all the security I could possibly need. I mean, I wouldn't do this if I had a concert on Tuesday. That would be silly. But this is it's a different chapter in my life. It's a time when this feels perfectly appropriate. And so I'm just playing with those levels, playing with those various ways in which the inner determines the outer. And I want to maintain an awareness of that, because little subtle inner shifts can end up having huge external effects for, both in the direction we want to go and in the direction that we might not want to go. And so just remembering how subtle that, or how precise that steering is, our hands on the wheel, really can have a big effect. I'm getting an appreciation for that, and while I'm here, and this whole trip has been a kind of opportunity to look at all that. So yeah, that's where I've come to on our last day. Looking forward to going home. Life is beautiful. What can I say? Thanks for watching. Love you. Appreciate you. Have a great day. I will see you back home tomorrow.